Hey everyone, this is Steve Kik, mortgage loan officer, and your host of the MMLA Connect podcast, where I'm bringing you the best and most important voices in the mortgage industry. Today, I have a great friend and someone that I look forward to learning more about their story and helping them tell their story today. Today, I have Steve Scheel. He is the managing director at CBiz. Steve, thank you for coming today and being a member of the podcast here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Steve. I look forward to it.
Two Steves and on one podcast, so could get dangerous. You're the better looking Steve, obviously, but we appreciate all you've done for the MMLA and everything you continue to do. So I'm just excited and really looking forward to diving into your story. With that being said, Steve, let's talk about your career, where you're at, not just where you're at now, but how you got there. I know we kind of touched on it a minute ago before we started recording. You started in the mortgage business. So maybe we start there and hear about your career. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I actually started before I was born. My parents, my mom actually started in 1977. My dad started in 1978. They met working at a mortgage company. So I have been a part of the mortgage business literally my entire life.
Yeah.
I followed them while I was in high school. I did some, I'll call it post-closing HIMDA file breakdowns for my mom when she was in processing, working for a bank at the time. I won't throw out any names, but
Sure.
They worked at a couple different places, and I followed them around. So I was in processing. I did some, like I said, post-closing, worked with my dad in secondary, worked in the accounting area, and eventually there's a story that I can go into at one point in time. I do some presentations for high schools occasionally, and one of the stories I tell is during college, I did an internship as a loan officer, and I was writing loans for a loan officer back in the time, and he in between my junior and senior year, he showed me his bonus check and said, "Don't go back to college. Come write loans here with us." Seriously considered it just based on the numbers that were presented in front of me. But
yeah,
went back to school, finished my accounting degree. Turned out to be a good thing because it led me to some other opportunities and where I'm at right now. But upon finishing school, went to go work for Flagstar Bank as a loan originator at the time. Learned a ton from the team that I was working with there. Still working with my mom. Worked there for a few years and then branched out on my own. Kind of wanted to tread my own path. Still in the mortgage business, still very, very much in tune to that. Went to work with a company that was based in Livonia at the time, a guy that I play soccer with and I networked with. We'll get into that part probably a little bit later on interests, but met a guy and met that group in Livonia, worked with them for several years. Turned out that fast forward up to probably about, it was 2017, 2018. I forget when I joined the MMLA. It was somebody back from that home loan specialist lender limited area, Craig Olmstead and Jim Wickham that we worked with, that introduced me to the MMLA. So you never really know where your paths are going to take you and why it's going to take you somewhere. Everything that you do, it's important to work hard, leave a good legacy, and represent yourself, your family, your work, everybody as good as you can for the future, right? So
how'd you get to where you are now?
Go ahead.
I said, so how'd you get to where you are now? Explain us that.
Yeah, so 2006, 7, there was a little bit of a rough patch in the mortgage and real estate market. I went back to grad school, got my MBA, and then I was kind of doing part-time mortgage originating with the people that I was working with back then with Lender Limited, home loan specialists, and ended up falling back on my accounting degree to kind of supplement income for a little bit. Ended up working for a public accounting firm and really enjoyed that. So left the mortgage business altogether to go work at a firm called Kroski-Lani. Did that for a couple years. Went into private to go work with a client for a few years and really learned the ins and outs of being like a CFO and internal accountant. Determined that I missed kind of the sales aspect of public accounting, and or what I really enjoyed from originating was going out and talking to and meeting people, doing some presentations, items like that. So came back to public, and when I came back that second time, was able to meet up with and build relationships in the mortgage business. So it was when I came back that I met back with Craig Olmstead and Jim Wickham, and they went to, I believe, It was a sales symposium, was the first event that I went to that was up in, I think it was Howell at the time. So out of the
Yeah.
blue, showed up on my own, and Mike Fontana, who is an absolute like rock in this organization, saw me kind of walking around lost, welcomed me in, and kind of showed me around and introduced me to people. And it was really that hospitality and having somebody that was there to be a comforting, welcoming person that helped me stick with it.
So Fontana was kind of your first inlet to, feeling comfortable at your first MMLA event.
Yes, sir.
It's funny because your parents are OGs of the business. Fontana's an OG of the business. So you obviously cut your teeth in the MMLA with some of the right people, right? And in the industry with some of the right people. Let's talk about for a minute here as I still, don't think we're fully into, your current career and where you've gotten to now, because you've gotten a few promotions or acquisitions and you're now the managing director at CBiz. So can you touch on that a little bit? Just, what your current role is and how you got there?
Yeah. So within the CPA world, you kind of work your way up to being a partner in the organization, right? So the firm that I was with, based in Novi in Rochester, Michigan, was Scheel. And I worked my way up through the firm in building relationships and bringing in some business, and kind of went from being an associate to a senior to a manager to a director, and then eventually to a partner. So within that standard structure, within most CPA firms, the partner is kind of like the highest level, and you have different roles and responsibilities based on the organization. Scheel in May of 2024 merged with Markham LLP. Then in November and so when we transferred over, I was a partner within Markham at that point in time. When Markham then in November of 24 merged with CBiz. So CBiz is a publicly traded organization, and the titles and structures are a little bit different within there. So the managing director is the equivalent of being a partner in another CPA firm that has more of a standard practice structure. So within CBiz, we have CBiz Advisors, which provides tax, accounting, and other support. We have a very wide variety, a large range of services that we can offer that I'm still trying to learn and understand, to be honest with you, in which we do insurance services. We do, like I said, tax, consulting, advisory. And then CBiz CPAs is I'll call it a sister organization in which I'm a shareholder in. And so within there, that provides assurance services. So we'll do audits, reviews, or compilations for clients. So for some of the clients that we have in the mortgage business, for example, we'd be doing.
Yep.
So we would do like if somebody needs a review or an audit for their warehouse line of credit, or if they have compliance work that they're doing for FHA lending, that would be done through CBiz CPAs. And then if there's tax work or other consulting, if it's, call it accounting information system setup, internal control structure, items of that nature, that'll be done through CBiz. And we work in tandem with both organizations.
So is it mostly for organizations that are completely outsourcing that piece of it, or are you coming in and doing some things here and there as needed, or a little bit of both?
So there's specific services and contracts that we'll come in and help with. And the majority of the clients that we work with for the tax side, they have their own accounting department, and they have somebody that's doing the basic structure on the trial balance and the GL detail for them. So we're just an outside service for like tax prep work or compliance of any sort that needs to be done there's specific services that we'll do for state compliance requirements. There's services that we'll do for tax returns. And then on the assurance side, it would be audited financial statements and or specific assurance level items that we might do.
Sure. I mean, you couldn't talk about a better person to be, leading an organization like this with all of your knowledge. I mean, from what I've just learned, you've pretty much been on every side of the coin, if you will, in the mortgage industry, right? You've been in the operations side, you've been in the accounting side, and you've been on the origination side, which gives you a really unique perspective as a CPA, So how has that shaped, what you do and how you go about your business?
It helps a ton, to be honest, because whether it was in the mortgage business or somewhere else, right? So when we go in and talk to a client, it's important for us to have the perspective of the business owner, and the business owner or the CFO or whomever's in that seat. They're very good at doing what they do, but they're looking for us to provide that outside service. Operating with empathy and being able to discuss what it is that they're thinking about and know what they're looking at, it helps that connection tremendously, right? So I was on a sales call couple weeks ago, and I can talk to the owner of a business about what they're going through as far as origination. When you're a broker, there's very specific things that are happening in that scenario versus being a lender and you're closing on a warehouse line of credit, and what's happening, what risks exist within the business for that type of entity versus a broker is completely different. And then if you have a servicing element, there's a completely different level of risk. So knowing how those businesses operate, have the history of being in the trenches, that helps connect with people and helps provide a different level of service when you're working with them as well, right?
Is that one of your pillars, operating with empathy? I heard you say that.
I don't
or
know
is
that
that
I
just
would.
is that one of your own things, or is that something that your company, because you mentioned it, you said operating with empathy, which I think is huge. Maybe it's just because I'm an empath, but being able to put yourself in the client's shoes or the referral partner's shoes is a huge thing to building trust and building that relationship and that rapport. So I don't know. I heard you say operating with empathy, and I love that term. I don't know if that was just what you threw out there, or if that's like a cornerstone pillar of your business, but I think that's huge.
I think it's probably a cornerstone of who I am and how I operate. There was one client that I went and was a temporary CFO for. They work in schools a lot, right? And so they have restorative practices. And well, I was in that office, and I was at Kroskilani at the time, but like a temporary CFO. I was in the operations section of that organization, and then like you cross over the line, and it was all like doctors. So everybody had a level of education that was above, and like I felt like far above an MBA, right? The meetings, the way that they conducted themselves, it was all with a restorative practice, like psychological aspect to it that really kind of helped evolve the way that I was connecting both with teams that I'm working with as well as clients going forward. So I think I've probably always had that perspective, trying to look at the client, even from when I was originating and going through some of the classes that I would take or tapes that I would listen to. I remember Mason Miller was the guy that trained me when I was in the mortgage business. The Psychology of Selling, and Brian Tracy. I used to have cassette tapes that I would go home and listen to for just hours, trying to learn how to improve my craft. And I feel like I'm always reading books. I'm always listening to thought leaders in every area. Unfortunately, I can't quite quote where I learned a specific item from, but empathy is very important to me.
Well, it's no wonder that it is, because you've been a very easy person to get to know, and someone who I know is highly respected within the MMLA. So thank you for being that empathetic person and continuing to show up. I wanted to bring up your involvement with the MMLA. You are on the state board this year, correct?
So, yes, state board member and helping out with the Southeast chapter still this year, and on the conference planning committee with Jen Peachman and that crew as well.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. I'm on that too.
Yeah,
we got a lot of hands on that one, which is good. It's good to see that, because I think we're all excited to have a great conference this year. So were you immediate past president then for Southeast chapter?
Oh, there's been a couple people since me.
Okay.
I think, but yes,
It's been a few years. All
so
right.
it's been quite a few years. I think my term for the president was smack dab in the middle of COVID. So I think the 2020 year was my term as president.
Nice. Yeah. Yep. So you're a pro.
So it was interesting. But yeah, I mean, from coming in, and this is one of the things that Mike Fontana helped me with, right? Like you join the organization, you show up to an event, and then like, what's the progress of going from showing up, participating, taking a leadership role, and then whether you get recognized or you start to participate and be in more rooms, right? So Mike got me introduced to what was the Southeast chapter at the time, because I'm based in Novi. And so that was the natural fit, right? And at one point in time, the Southeast chapter was the best chapter. I know that you're from the West chapter, so we can have some friendly competition with Heidi there on that one. But
I'll say this. I truly respect everyone in your chapter, which is why I made the trip to your holiday party this year. There's a lot of heavy hitters over in your area, and I wouldn't say that our chapter is any better than any other chapter. We're all equally important.
Yeah.
I think we're just larger and we're louder, And, you know, that I think that makes up a difference, because I've had a few people ask me about joining your chapter just because of location. And I always tell them, you know, I love your chapter. It has great people, and there's a lot of really big businesses and a lot of heavy hitters in the mortgage industry in the, you know, greater Detroit area. I mean, we're talking like Michigan is a mecca for mortgages for sure. So we're a pretty important piece to the mortgage cog, if you will. And it's important for people to focus on that. And I think getting involved with your chapter or the MMLA, you know, in particular, is a hugely advantageous thing for anyone trying to, you know, continue to push their business and network. You know, would you say for you, Steve, what would you say has been the most beneficial thing for you or your business in becoming part of the MMLA?
So I think the most beneficial thing, and I think this would apply to both the MMLA and or any other networking group that you are a part of, right? So within the MMLA, I think we're all very supportive of each other. And so having that network of resources to go to, if I'm working with a client that has a specific situation that's happening, I can confidentially reach out and run a scenario by somebody who is a subject matter expert in that area. I think that exists whether you are an originator, whether you're in secondary, whether you're in operations, wherever you're at. I think everybody who is in the MMLA is very supportive of each other. And having those resources, if something happens to you individually and you need to go find a different job somewhere, if something happens to somebody with a loan and they need to figure out how to handle it with their investor or with their banker, you can go to a source somewhere and get a solid, respectable, and good answer to direct you moving forward. And it builds you and your career into the future, right? So for lenders, it's important to stay connected with people that are in your community. For the vendors that are in here, you also have an opportunity to learn what vendors are doing that's different for other lenders, and you can experience and grow your business and those operations in those rooms, right? So the more that you participate in events, whether you look at an event and say, oh, I'm going to get something of value out of this or not, you just being there and then networking with the other people who are attending that event, you're probably going to learn something there, whether you planned on it or not. And odds are you're going to take more away from there than you plan to take away from attending that.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that last piece you just touched on. Is, you know, we talk about this quite a bit, but it is truly, you know, you get out of it what you put into it. So you can't expect for it to just, you know, give you a million relationships and a bunch of business. You have to put in the work, but it will be fruitful if you do, you know. So
I was told by somebody, just to continue on that, I was told by somebody at one point in time, one of the first people that I met with, and Dawn Burdick was the leader of the golf outing when I first came in, and I volunteered to help her with the Southeast chapter golf outing. And she said something to me that stuck with me the whole time, and ever since I've been in it. She's like, people notice when you're not there. So when you're there, people will notice that you're there, but people notice more when you don't show up to events. So just show up to events and be present, be visible, and you're going to get, whether you're a vendor or whether you're a lender, you're going to get things from attending and participating in those events.
Absolutely. Show up, be present, and, you know, have a good attitude, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So kind of segueing into the next point, we've talked about business, we've talked about mortgage, but Steve, let's talk about you personally. Who's the real Steve Scheel? What drives you? What gets you up in the morning to do your job and to make money and make a living? What do you do also when you're not, you know, being a CPA or a managing director and, you know, all that kind of fun stuff? What do you like to do in your free time?
Free time is hard to come by this time of year just because of what's going on with tax season, assurance season, all those items, right? But with that said, I mean, I'm hoping to sneak out of the office today early and go watch my nephew play in a high school basketball game. So to me, family is the most important thing to me. Family is my pillar. I got two kids, one that's a freshman in college, one that's a sophomore in high school. I have several nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters-in-law and all those people who all live around us. I married into a large Italian family that's all based in this area. So it's really like my family growing up. I had my parents, I had my brother and sister, and it was kind of us. We didn't have many cousins that were around us. Marrying into a family where they're all very close and they eat together all the time. They hang out together all the time. Family is probably like the pillar that drives me, and watching them grow is so fun. Teaching others, giving back to the community when I can, coaching, items of that nature. I'm a big sports person, so I do have golf clubs. I like to golf when I can, but I'm not that great at it. Looking to improve.
Same here, man. Jeez.
Golfing and bowling is kind of what I would say. Bowling, I try to go over 100, and golf, I try to be below 100. It means I'm not great at either one, but I enjoy being with friends and family while I'm experiencing those sports, right?
Yeah.
I grew up playing soccer though my whole life. Played at a decently high level for a long period of time, and still enjoy playing when I get the opportunity right now. Got a knock right now, so I'm resting my knee for a couple weeks, but I still try to play every chance I get. My son is playing soccer right now. My daughter did pom all growing up, and my wife did pom too. So she's at Michigan State on the pom team. They have a state competition going on this weekend on Sunday. So hoping they do well there, supporting my personal family and extended family as they grow. And then the people that are around me in the office, right? So trying to help support them, raise their kids and their family, and help others around me. So,
I gotta say, I'm 50% Italian. So my mom is full blooded. She comes from a large Italian family. We had 19 cousins growing up. We spent every Christmas, or, holiday at my grandparents' house with all of us, right? There was only one that moved away at the time. So most of us were there. And yeah, I mean, that's just something really cool. And you got to experience it later on, but I grew up in that kind of environment. So I don't know if that's just the Italian way where it's like, your get-togethers are just big and, loud.
Oh yeah.
And fun. Miss that because, the hard thing is as time goes on and families, move away and move apart, is it's hard to get those family get-togethers, the way that they were before, So we're trying to keep those going, but I understand you marrying into that because that's kind of a part of my experience growing up too. Is so now I'm trying to pass that down to my kids, but it's different, right? The family dynamics always change, and I think it's important for us to kind of look back towards our extended family. For so long we got so involved in looking inside of our own personal household and forgetting about that we're all kind of connected together and we need to help our, extended family and our neighbors. Right. Yeah. So hopefully that's something that changes in the future here and we move back to those roots that we had with those family ties. But it sounds like you have those same roots. So appreciate that, Steve. Before we go here, we'll wrap things up. Steve, it's been great listening to you and hearing your story. One thing we want to do for our listeners and for ourselves is continue to talk about the things that we're looking forward to. So if you can leave our listeners with one positive spin on, the next year or the next couple of years or the next month, give us your take on why people should be looking up and be happy about what's to come. So give us your positive spin, Steve.
Only going to get better. So, I mean, there's learning experiences in everything that we have, and the mortgage business has gone through some struggles lately. Start with what you know, build on the foundation, and keep building connections. And I believe that 2025 and 2026 are going to be better than 23 and 24 were. Having a positive mindset, a growth mindset, always look for ways to improve yourself, read books or listen to quality podcasts and individuals like yourself, Steve. And I believe that everybody will be in a better place and at the end of 25 and 26 than you are right now. But it's not going to be easy. I mean, you have to, regardless of who you are, and I say this to my kid, I say this to whoever I'm coaching or working with, find something you like, see what it's going to take to get there and put in the work to get there. And I guarantee you are going to be better off in 24 months than you are right now.
Yeah.
But stick to it.
Yeah. And I love that, where you said, see what it's going to take to get there and then go do it, right? Because you have to be mindful of what it's going to take to get there and if you can actually do it, right? And we have to be aware of the truth and what it's going to take to be what we want to be, right? Yep. So Yeah, I mean, I love it, Steve. Thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate your time. 2025 and 2026 are going to be great. We're going to continue to lean on your leadership in the MMLA and for many more years to come. So thanks again for taking the time to share with us, Steve.
Can I leave one more thing? Come join us at the state conference in Frankenmuth in August. I think it's going to be an awesome time. Steve and I are hoping to put it on for everybody. And Jen Peachman's a great leader for us, and Joanne Misraka was hopefully going to raffle off another dinner for us.
Heck yeah. Looking forward to it, man. Thanks again, Steve. Cool. And thanks for listening.